I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's probably just a little bit into your day as you start. I got my cup of coffee next to me, along with an inbox full of some unopened emails. So I promise to provide you with some resources and hopefully some tips that you can use and try not to bore you. And I also will at least try to throw in a laugh or two in there. Kudos to Rails for setting this up. And Joe Philippek and what they're doing over there. I appreciate how they're setting these up so we can learn more to help us be effective at what we do. And kudos to that wonderful jazz music on the intro there. I was zoning out and tapping my feet. I wasn't sure I was getting ready for a webinar or waiting in the dentist's office there. Good job.
Yeah, we do what we can.
Yeah, good job on the Pandora station there.
You got it.
Yeah, so once again, as Joe said, this is Simple Strategies for Social Media. There's a little bit of the beginning, learning, as well as if you're already advanced. Hopefully you kind of at least can take away something that will help you either learn more to start your social media for your library or to at least enhance it. I have gotten people that ask me about this already. Well, will this help me, for jobs or even my personal stuff? Certainly you could use something here to take into your own social media accounts, not just dedicated for the library, but you certainly could walk away with something to help yourself or at least a resource that you could pass on. Going into a little bit of the agenda today, got the introduction, evaluate what you have, what you need, and what you can do to kind of start, especially if you're just coming into it, whether you are taking over a position or you're looking to start a whole kind of social media committee or department for your library, or if you're just looking to improve some aspect of your duties there. How-tos on getting the word out. Social media is not, a one-person shop, although a lot of us might be, doing it on their own. Shout out to anyone who's a team of one. We're going to get into how you can kind of pull in some resources from your library as well as some strategies to kind of get what you're doing for social media for your library out so everyone in the library can know as well as community. How-tos on posting and scheduling tips. We'll also dig into some of the resources. There is a kind of a resource list that is attached, so certainly if you walk away with anything, you at least get a resource that might help you, whether it be something for scheduling, for analytics, or even just something to kind of use as a browser extension to help you do your social media. So please, if anything, at least print out the resource list. If you have to walk away early, it won't bother me as long as you at least get something productive. Then contact information. Luckily, with a name like Athens, it's very easy to search for me. You might have seen me around at some other conferences, presentations. I'm usually a chatterbox, so certainly the name Athens kind of alludes to it. As Joe said, I'm from Glencoe Public Library. I'm the network manager over here. As many of you might be in the same position, in a small library or even a big library, I never seem to wear just one hat. So I'm also managing the social media here, which is a good hat. I definitely love doing that aspect of the job. I show some love for my Highland Park library staff, as on the weekends I am a youth librarian over there. So that kind of compounds a little bit of the 15 years of library experience with adults, kids, families, community experience. You see the picture of the Skokie bookmobile, my heyday of the library world. Many people have known me as the driver and librarian on the Skokie bookmobile. So that was a fun experience. So I kind of got a little bit of wealth of knowledge. I say I'm a lot older. I feel in my knees, especially after a run. I still got lots of experience, even though I look a little young. Library kind of guy is my handle for Twitter, Instagram, and again, with a name like Athens, you certainly can Google search me. Ignore all the bad articles and any kind of warrants or anything like that you see. That's not me, that's somebody else. But certainly connect with me, whether here at Glencoe or if you're on the weekends and you're in the North Shore area, you certainly can find me at one of those libraries. Some goals for the day. Hopefully, as I said, I promise to at least try to bring you something productive. Hopefully you better understand what your social media is about and what do we want to do. When you get into this role, Either you have an idea, or you might not have an idea, or the library has an idea or something, or you're getting passed down an idea. But the question is always good to kind of start off with, what do we want to do, or what do I want to do with the social media for the library? We'll gain an understanding of how each social media platforms. I'm going to touch mostly on the big three, the Instagram, the Facebook, and Twitter. I will go a little bit into Snapchat, Pinterest, and there's some other avenues that I think that if you have the time, which is, is always tough, that you can look into as well. We'll learn some tools, tricks, resources to help make it less of a chore. Learn that you're also not alone. When in doubt, look around you. Hashtag team of one. That stems from when I was online doing a little webinar just like today for Hootsuite, and during the chat people were kind of saying, oh, well, this is hard, for if you only have a team of one. And would you know it, certainly that team of one just kind of branched off into our own little Facebook group and kind of a collaborative group for everyone who handles social media for their business or whatnot by themselves, and we've just been able to share resources. So it's amazing how something can blossom with social media. It just takes the right platform, the attitude. Hashtag Rails today. Not giving you any homework, but if you happen to have your computer, your phone next to you, certainly show a little love, and let's kind of get some of that social media energy flowing with Rails today. I think I posted something on my Twitter, so there's one of your assignments is to go do something with Rails today. Let's jump right into it. I kind of wanted to theme it that it was easy, so E-A-S-Y, but I think I kind of stopped after the A part. I couldn't find something that rhymed with the S, but certainly for E is all about evaluating, and this is great if you're just coming into the position. In my experience, I've been kind of coming into it and kind of starting from scratch, so to speak. Whether you're coming in, you've had a successful social media kind of core at your library or your position, it's always good to still take some time to evaluate it, maybe once a year. And one of the first things I like to do is to get an audit started. It's not a bad thing. An audit is just kind of, think of it just kind of an organized, document almost. Get all your passwords, your handles, get what accounts you have, get that all, cleaned up. And that's something that could also be good to do once a year, just for the sake of changing passwords too. If it's something that you just put a reminder, hey, March 2nd or March 1st or the first day of the fiscal year, which we all know, something like that to kind of remind you, like, hey, let me go through and make sure passwords are changed and update documents. And this is also where you can see what is working, what isn't working. If you have an account that you're not, you haven't posted or you haven't done anything with in a few months, now's the time to say, you know what, our Goodreads has, 2 book reviews, and Cat in the Hat's one of them, so happy birthday, Dr. Seuss. So, that could be a time that we can say, okay, you know what, let's just get rid of this. And I would not advise, pausing accounts or letting an account be dead, because then you might miss out on something. You could be have a dead Pinterest account, or let's say, your Facebook is dead and you haven't done anything with for a few months, and then someone tags you or someone writes on your wall or someone repost something and you don't even get the alert about it, and it could lead to something there. So it's better just to get rid of the accounts and no one can search and see something. It doesn't look good to have an account that hasn't had any postings for months or so forth. After, as you do this audit and evaluate, this is the time also where you can see which ones are easy for you and which ones are not. Pinterest is not my strong suit. I often use Pinterest, for decorating ideas and kind of recipes, but in a library sense, initially it was hard for me to kind of, create a library page for Pinterest and so forth, and that's always one of the first ones that I kind of highlight, like, okay, Athens, you got Instagram, you got Facebook, you got all these things down, but Pinterest is a good one. It's easy to do, but for some reason it just clashes with you. So that's something you can also do with your audit, is kind of highlight some of the ones that you breeze through or you struggle with. Can you dedicate the time? If you're coming into the position, if this is your sole duty, then maybe you can dedicate more time. For others that are wearing more hats, hey, we're probably listening to this webinar, checking emails, checking phone. How much time can we really dedicate to this? And we have to be realistic about that. It doesn't require a lot of time, especially with some of the resources that I'll show you later on today. But certainly you have to at least have it in your mind a few times a week at least. Can you call on others? This is another good part of the audit, is that maybe you can kind of have a section of your partners, so to speak, or department people, contacts that you can have feed you photos and so forth. What is the tree map? Who else is involved to give you the info and pics, as I was mentioning? Now's the time to kind of get that documented. Your troubleshooting in case someone notices an error on Facebook. Everyone in the library knows who to contact. This is the time, once a year that you get all that organized, so that way it helps kind of the smooth transition if you're taking over or just the continuation of a successful program for your library. Is there a policy? I would advise to get something, to cover yourself from our dreaded FOIA, and give yourself the right to delete postings and whatnot. I think that kind of is like the bare minimum. That way, if someone posts something, you can delete it. Fortunately, I haven't had to deal with that, but I have heard from libraries that sometimes, you get some spammers, which, always seems to happen on certain platforms. So you want to have a policy set. So if you don't have one, this audit this time of the year would be a good time to get something created. A little bit more about evaluating, see which ways your social media is being promoted. In that document, you could create another segment of how is Facebook being promoted. Is it in the newsletter? Is it online? Is there an icon on your website? And get all this stuff done. It might take you half a day to get this document, or kind of organize or whatnot. But once you have it, you're going to be able to answer so many questions, at least for yourself, for the year. Again, especially if you're just coming into the position. Reports. How frequent? What is the demand? Get all this stuff organized. I would always suggest you do get the reports. We'll get into that a little bit later. Also, do you have a budget? If you don't have one, I think to give it some more validity, it's always good to have a budget, because numbers don't lie, and people always look to the budget as kind of the temple of what's going good for the library. So now let's go a little bit into some attack strategy. Here's the A that I was telling you about in easy. I don't know, after that it doesn't seem to work too well, but getting awareness and buy-in. I think the biggest thing for social media and libraries, and when people talk to me, is like, how can I get the library to buy into it? Or not everyone has social media, or not everyone knows Twitter or uses Twitter. So if I post on there, who am I even talking to, and so forth. And this is the time you get after you get your audit going, is to really kind of figure out and how to put your social media platforms on display. So coming into this position and other positions, I try to right away and say, hey, are we in the e-newsletter? Do we have icons? Can we have a little segment or something? Maybe we can have a little post of the week or something if your newsletter is weekly. If we have a printed section maybe on our flyers, you want to get the little icons and your handles out there as often as possible. Brand your stuff with social media icons, so saying your user handles, business cards, have it on the back, have your social media icons. Think of that almost as something that should be in all your documents almost, on the website or anything digital. Your digital documents should have some aspect to connect a patron or a customer or whatnot to your social media. If you have digital signs in the library, incorporate, like, hey, add us on Facebook, or tweet the library using Twitter. I mean, it can be as generic as can be. You set it up once and the sign can just repeat. It could be a slide that you never have to delete, but at least, someone walking by will be like, oh, that's cool, the library has Twitter, or the library has Snapchat, something like that. You never know who's going to see it, and it could lead to more people learning more about your social media. And the staff as well, they're going to notice that stuff too, because they're probably looking at these things more often, and now they're saying, oh, it's cool, the library has a Pinterest account and so forth. Step 2 here, get your stuff pushed to you if possible. I've always find that if I go to librarians and different departments in the library and say, hey, you guys had a cool program last week, let me know when you have this type of stuff, or send me photos of it, or send me the schedule for the week. People love to do that, especially instructors, librarians who teach classes and whatnot. They want the attendance too, so they're going to come at me and say, hey, Athens, I got an Excel class here, do something with it, put it online, So if you can get people to put, pass stuff to you, that'll help you also kind of, remember. Time is going to be tough when you're handling social media, whether you're instant or you can set aside time. But the more that people are passing stuff to you, it's almost like a reminder. Think of it as a notification, so to speak, that, hey, there is something coming up, and staff and departments want that promotion as well. Call on others, a social committee if you can. That'd be great to form in your library. I think that's something that a lot of libraries are trying to at least get into little committee sections. That could be something that you could bring up, talk to your director and say, hey, can I pull someone from youth? Can I pull someone from adult or digital services, and kind of have a little social committee? So that way you can start delegating a little bit to everyone, so that way it's not all on you. A budget, again, numbers don't lie. If you can get a budget approved or something, then now you just gotten yourself some more validity to where you can really push your social media and what you want to do with social media, and maybe bring in, that's how a committee can get formed, because now you have a budget. I think it just makes it tangible for people to see. If you could do giveaways and prizes, everyone loves giveaways and prizes. I can't seem to not take the stylus pens everywhere I go for some reason, even though I have a whole box of them, thanks to Rails. But it's one of those things that people enjoy stuff like that. I think of stuff that I see on social media like Instagram, repost your favorite book, or tag us in a photo of yours when you're reading. I did something here when we were giving out mugs, and I gave mailed a mug to someone who took a photo of them using it, using a Glencoe Library book. Stuff like that. I feel like we always have these giveaways and prizes for reading clubs and so forth. If you can get a little bit of the extra stash, or get some set aside, you can give away for something with social media. That's just going to at least bring you attention for the people that want the prize, and now that's more attention than you would get normally. And show off your stats. I think that's a big thing. That's one of the things that I see a lot of libraries don't do, especially the people who handle social media. They don't include it like in the board packet, or they don't put it in the department stats. It might be they keep stats for themselves, but share that. Social media stats are usually large numbers, even if you don't do a lot of work, for the simple fact that your one post can be displayed in someone's feed across different devices, not just a computer, and that all counts as kind of like a tick mark. Think of people, who still use desk trackers and tick marks when they're at their desk. If you do one post a week, you're going to hit a couple hundred people, and that's like a couple hundred tick marks coming up to the reference desk. So show off those stats. I talked to the director here and said, hey, can we put that in the board packet as far as kind of like a department stack and so forth, and he was on board, and people love seeing that every month. That's going to give you some more buy-in, but also make you look good, and then in turn you're doing your job a little more happier. Some other tax strategies: get your phone connected. This is a must. I know some people that, well, I want to separate work and whatnot, and I understand that. Trust me, I don't want to go home after 9 to 5 and work 6 to 9. But the phone being it's just it's the easiest middleman for social media. Whether you can get a separate phone, that you only use for work and for social media, or if you get a tablet, this could be where you go to your tech department and say, I need a tablet or something like that. So you got to get something that's a device. You can't, it's not like you're pushing out emails and you can just do all this from your web computer. In some ways you can, but you're going to miss that. Social media really thrives when you can do stuff instantly, whether it be a photo or whatnot. I was talking to a library last week, and they said, hey, hold on, let's get a photo for social media. And someone had to run in the back to get the digital camera, and it wasn't charged. And it was about 15 minutes later, and when I finally took the photo, none of us were really that happy looking in the photo, because it was, almost 20 minutes had went by. Whereas you could have just simply snapped a photo with the phone or something like that. So I know some people don't want to get to, and there's some people who don't want to upgrade to like a smartphone for, obvious reasons maybe, but if you're going to do something with social media in the library, you're going to be have a higher chance of being successful if you got something with a phone or at least a tablet. Can you dedicate 15 minutes a day? Now's the time to really set a certain day. I like to use Monday maybe because it's Monday motivation or something. I don't know. I like to use Monday as kind of like my day to kind of plan out the week, get the scheduling done on Monday for my postings for the week. Also, it helps in case there was something cool over the weekend. I could, post it now on Monday, kind of help someone else start their week off with some good news or whatnot. Pick out a day or a time. Again, a lot of it is going to be instant. And that's what's tough with social media. You can't always say, Tuesday is the only day I'm going to pay attention to the world. You have to kind of be open 7 days a week. But if you can at least dedicate time on one day or at least an hour a week here and there, 15 minutes a day throughout the week, this would really help you be successful. Get ahead of the calendar. I have a big dry erase board that literally has almost all of the programs. It's kind of like our events calendar or our event calendar on a dry erase board. And this also is where people feeding you events can help you be successful as well. If you're ahead of the calendar, then you know what's happening. I was helping someone set up a room. They're like, what program we have in here? I was like, oh, I know the program because I'm ahead of the calendar. I think that will help you when you're posting. And then also if you see something, online, if you're searching and you see an article on Apple, let's say, and you're like, oh yeah, we have a intro to Apple class coming up. Now you can maybe, repost that or use that as a springboard for your own posting. So yeah, anything with the calendar, get ahead of that for your adult and youth and just library events. If you can get a big dry erase board, now use this webinar as an ally to help you get that budgeted for you. Scheduling starts big, then small. I know some people want to jump in and start doing scheduling with postings, right? For every little program and every big program, but do the big ones first because obviously that's going to have the bigger draw, and those are the ones you want to spend the most time with. You want to make sure you get a good graphic. You want to, take your time in the way you're going to word it as well. So start big and then go for the smaller ones, especially something that's like a repeating event. You can do kind of a post, once in a while, but if it repeats, people kind of will get the gist of it, and it's usually repeat attendance anyways. Big events, I like to do kind of, let's say we have an author coming a week ahead of time. I'll post something one day before and then the day of, if I can, and this is where it's easier with a tablet or a phone, to take some photos or to do something even during the event as well. For small events, 1 or 2 days at most prior and the day of, I'll do something. Hey, join us later tonight for how to do Excel, or we have a reading club discussion tonight or something. Those, since they usually are repeat programs, I'll just kind of leave it to 1 or 2 days ahead of time. Double check when you're posting something, see how it looks. Now's the time to add your edits, your emojis, which are big also in social media. Date, time, look at age requirements, registrations. Sometimes as you're doing this, you might ignore something that it's registrations required, or I've done in the past where I'll post something about a kids program and it's like, oh, it's only K through 2, second grade, and you're like, so now's the time to kind of get that discipline down to where you say, okay, these programs have this time allocated or this age requirement. When you post, make sure you put something like that down, and I'll show you some examples too. That's not how to use a hashtag. I just put that there for giggles there to show you a little bit about, as we start going into some examples of how to use some of the social media platforms. Kind of the goal here is to stay relevant and showing you how to use the big 3. As far as the number of postings, people always ask me, well, I read somewhere it's 10 times a day or it's 7 times a day. If you're in a small library in a small community, you might not have that many people even visiting your page a day. So you have to kind of at least just get a little of a formula down. And for me, Facebook is kind of something that you should obviously have, and I like to do something at least once a day. Same thing with Twitter. Big or small library, or even if you're just using it for your own personal accounts, you should have these. And again, stay active with it daily. Instagram's a must-have. I'm on there with the library a few times a week, daily. I have another staff member here who's fantastic in helping with Instagram, as well as some of the other social media. Sarah Burkhart, high five to you. So we're on there at least a few times a week, if not daily. Pinterest, I don't have it as a must-have, for your library, but it certainly is easy to have. And I don't even really, it's not one of my strong suits, Pinterest, as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, but it certainly is easy to have, and it's easy to do weekly. I don't put much energy in that, maybe 30 seconds, and for some reason people, interact with our Pinterest page, and then maybe that's a sign for me to spend more time with it. But as I did my audit, as I mentioned earlier on, that document that kind of looks over everything, Pinterest was not one of my strong ones. It's not the highest, attention, retainer for people here in the community, so it's a little bit down on the list, so I'm not going to dedicate that much time to it. That's where an audit really helps you, because now you can kind of prioritize which ones. Snapchat. Snapchat is popular, but it is hard to have. I've had that at a couple libraries, and have pretty much stopped the account. If you're going to do something with that a few times a week at least, and LinkedIn I think is a nice thing to have, and I interact with our LinkedIn. I try to do weekly, so that could be something to kind of put on your radar. I know some libraries have it, and they just don't necessarily update it with stuff, but I think it's great for, and I'll touch a little bit on later, it's great for like little articles and stuff for job resources and so forth. Let's go a little bit into Facebook. We're going to talk a little bit about the big three, and I'll go over some of these a little bit more in depth. But for Facebook, when possible, start off with your location, your activity, and I'll show you an example, I believe, on the next slide. There's new ways now that you can kind of do your activity or how you're feeling. Those are fun. I think it makes you almost fun to do it. Hey, Glencoe Library is feeling excited. We have a reading club today, or something like that. Tag your location. That helps motivate other people to do the tagging as well. It's a great platform for pictures, inserting your links, your scheduling. They do have kind of like their own default schedule. Facebook is where you are very similar to like an email. This is where you're going to kind of put more of your information. The other platforms I'll mention later, not really going to boggle down with words and so forth. Some even have character limits. Your Facebook's where if you are that typer, you like to type sentences for each one of your posts, this is the platform to do that. Before hopefully you start to window down some of that text, but this is the platform for that. Usually you can tie into many other entities. You could tag check-in. I like to tag, whoever, if someone's doing a program here and they have a page, I like to tag them in the post as well. Now you're just, pushing out more awareness to your page. If you're checking in somewhere, if I go to a conference or something, I'll check in somewhere. That's always, again, you're putting more awareness to your page. As I mentioned, it's best for promoting events, and it's also best for promoting events in advance. So certainly this is where, if we have something coming up like a week from now, I will put it on Facebook. Like, hey, join us next week, and use terms, stuff like that. I think Facebook is great for anything scheduling in advance. Impressions. This could be something that gives you the high numbers in your reports. If you're doing them, is the number of times your post has been seen. So if I post, hey, Athens is doing a webinar today on Facebook, and Joe Sally over there looks at his phone, his tablet, and his computer, and he saw the same post, that's times 3. That's 3, picks on my desk tracker or something. So, times that, times the number of people that like your page, and now you've got hundreds, if not thousands, of almost checks for the week. That's a good number to kind of show for your stats. Ads can be purchased, and they're great for centralized promotion. And this is where, if you get a budget going, I would dedicate for ads. For a few dollars, you can kind of put an awareness ad out there. I've done that a few times to help with friend sales, the used book sale here. You could really just you could even toggle it down to local people within your zip code, or if you want to attack more the younger demographic, or you want to go for families or whatnot. Ads can be, for a few dollars, you can really bring in some new attention to your page. Hashtags are not heavily used. Even among my friends, sometimes they put too many hashtags with Facebook. I'm like, this is not Twitter. This is not that platform. Please do not try to mix them up. I have Facebook for a reason, not for it to be Instagram. There is the mobile app, and again, I will harp on, having a mobile device at your disposal, whether it be your phone or get something allocated for social media in the library, because the app is going to be easy to use too. Some people don't respond to their messages really. They just kind of forget about that. Someone was telling me the other day, like, oh yeah, someone messaged us, like, what are our hours today? I'm like, well, one, it should be on your Facebook page, but if you got that message, you should have responded. Don't look at it like, oh, the reference desk or something has to respond, because that response time shows up on your page too. And if someone's visiting your page and it says responds usually within 1 or 2 days, you might lose that interaction there. So definitely pay attention to what's on your Facebook page, whether it does have different feeds. If you have a newsletter sign-up form, as I have in there coming up on the bullet points, that could be something you could tie into as well. There's a lot of little apps that you can add to your Facebook, and having a newsletter sign up or tie other social media platforms, those are great to have on your Facebook page. It's easy to share, post pictures from phones. That's why, again, if you have a phone, you can as you click on a photo within your camera library, there's ways you can kind of push it to your Facebook. It's just very easy to do. So again, I recommend the phone. And it's very easy with Facebook to kind of follow your page's activity and interact with them. I mean, all you have to do is just thumbs up someone who's checking in at your library, which you should, anyone who checks in at your library you should interact with. Even if you just put a thumbs up or the little heart or something. I like to put a comment like, hey, thanks for joining us. If you need anything, let us know. You might just, get that interaction. Obviously, if it gets to a certain point, you can say, hey, stop at the reference desk or whatnot. But you might just build build a connection with someone that way, and now that person's following your page more closely now because, like, hey, your library was friendly to me when I was there. Facebook does offer analytics. Not the easiest to use. It kind of only really goes back 28 days. And even if you use another platform, it's still sometimes only with 28 days. But there are the analytics, they're called insights. Certainly something to help you with your reports if you do for your board and whatnot. Here are some examples I was telling you. If you're going to put a link, I'll go into the resources, use bit.ly or owly to shorten the link, as you see in the example on the left there. I'll put something, and you see the time, the grades. I'll put an example. A graphic, or if you can pull something from your page. The example on the right, as I was showing, mentioning that you can kind of do a feeling or do an activity. Glencoe Library was watching. And what's great about using that, if you have movies at your library, when you do the movie, it shows up the picture of the movie as well. So you don't have to worry about cutting and pasting or getting an image from IMDb. So, that's something that can keep it easy for you too, and it makes it look cool. Glencoe Library is watching denial, and I don't have to worry about the photo or anything like that. Within a few words, I got that post out there, and I got a graphic as well. Now for Twitter, hashtags heavily are used. Sometimes you can even do a whole conversation without any words except just hashtags. You can mix and match the hashtags in between words. Certainly, I have an example of that, I believe, later. That's something you could do. Links can be inserted, but again, with that character limit, it can be tough, and that's where shortening really comes into play. Twitter is great for trending real time, what's happening now. I think, I get news of, I think when Carrie Fisher, a couple weeks ago, it was on Twitter before it even hit the internet. Twitter is definitely kind of very fast, responsive, and that's why it's not really sometimes it's not the greatest platform to say, hey, we have an event next week or something like that, because people only look at it like what's happening now. It can be tied to other platforms for cross-sharing, especially on your mobile device. If you post on one, you can post on the other. That's what's great about that. Be careful that your images are shown, not just a link to somewhere else. I made that mistake where I'll be on Instagram and I'll share it to Twitter, and Sarah here at the library is like, hey, Athens, it doesn't lead to anything. If anything, now they have to install the app or whatnot. So make sure you have the images shown, and it's not just, and that's where when you do post, you want to double check how it looks across different platforms. Best for quick mentions, highlight a certain item, event, or person. If it's an author's birthday, Dr. Seuss, I believe today, then that's where putting stuff on Twitter is going to be great, because it's all about happening, what's relevant that day, or maybe within some smaller time, what's happening and what's relevant that half hour. Desktop use makes it easier for cross-promoting. by retweeting. You know, if I don't have too much time in the week or it's a busy day, sometimes I just go on my phone or I'll go on off a desktop and just retweet some things. And that's where it's great if you follow libraries, book companies. I think of Hoopla, I think of Overdrive. You know, you follow them. They do a lot to promote e-resources, and that's just easy stuff that you can kind of retweet and kind of add your own comment. Like, hey, yeah, you know, ebooks are free with a library card. You know, Twitter has great analytics that are kind of easy to follow, and they do break it down by month. So every month when I do my reports, I log on to Twitter, look at them, and I can see new followers. I can see how many impressions I've made. I can see that type of activity within just a few moments. Here's some examples here. Again, shortening the links, as you can see on the left. Try to limit your characters. The example on the right is of me retweeting something, you know, with J.K. Rowling, and all I put was a few words there. Time to get the shelves ready, huh? You know what I mean? And now I have something that people might interact with, and it didn't take me long. So certainly you can retweet, and I think that's something that you can kind of do at least a few times a day within just a few presses off your phone or even your desktop. Very easy to do there. For Instagram, best for pictures. Okay, it's a picture format. Do not think like, oh, let's go on Instagram and put that the library's closed today, or you know, the library has this program or something like that. It's just tough to do because just like Twitter, it's very, you know, it's for the instant people only, really, and people just kind of want to see the pictures. Think of it how it's laid out on your phone, and people are browsing. You're just kind of scrolling through, and you're just looking at the pictures. And if you see a good picture, then you kind of read the content onto that. So just think pictures of your library, or, you know, make it creative, make it fun. You know, people behind the scenes, all that stuff. Or crowds, anything to do with kids, of course, is a winner, or dogs if you have dogs in the library or something. Mobile phone, again, is a must. You can't do anything with the desktop or going to Instagram.com. You can get some analytics through there, but you're really going to need the mobile platform. You can toggle between work and personal on the phone. Very easy to do. Analytics are a little bit limited. I'll show you some resources later that you can get some more involved analytics. But within Instagram, you get some analytics. You can tag users. You can link to other accounts. Again, be careful if the picture is shown or not. It's limited text. I would not. You can't insert links. I wouldn't put a whole paragraph like, you know, today is this day, blah blah blah. You might just want to put hashtags. That, you know, hashtags can do the talking. You know, Seuss's birthday, and you know, Seuss's birthday would be the hashtag, you know, in front of it. It's great for emojis. Hashtags, as I mentioned, no desktop usage. Be smart with the filters. I think some people overplay on the filters, which is, you know, it's cool that you're enjoying it, but no filter is the best. And if you're going to do no filter, put the hashtag no filter, because there's just usually thousands of people that are using that filter. And what's great about with Instagram, when you start putting the filter, it'll show you like how many people have used that filter. So that kind of gives you, if you're using a filter and you don't see anyone else using it, you know, if you want to be creative and kind of set the trend for the day, but it's better to follow, you know, so use a filter that has a good response. You can tag locations. My only, you know, caveat is don't take pictures of signs. If you have signs in the building or signs for a program, it's just tough to do. It doesn't look right. It'd be better to make a graphic using, you know, Canva or something, which I'll go into later. Make it fun. Develop themes. You know, shout out to libraries that are doing Book Face Friday, New Book Tuesday, Collection Thursday, something we got going on here, Monday Motivation. These are all kind of themes that you can kind of delegate, you know, or kind of set for the week and say, okay, you know what, Friday is the only time I'm really going to play around with Instagram, but at least I'll do Book Face Friday, which is usually going to give you a good response. Here's an example here, donuts. And, you know, that's what's great about using the mobile devices. You can see the arrows there. I got the little picture of a donut along with the hashtag example. I mean, those are things that if you don't use a mobile platform, that you can miss out with the little keyboard. You know, a cup of coffee. I think that's something you have to do. You know, especially with Instagram, I think the emojis are big. It's just cool. I mean, look at that. Books. You got a smiley, winking face. The donut, the coffee. You know, that's stuff that you can't do with a desktop, so it's you know, or using a web browser, whereas off your phone you can. Some of the other platforms, I won't talk too much about them. Pinterest is great for reading lists. I think it's very easy to use. I have a Pinterest Chrome extension, so that if I come across a good article, best to read in 2017, I'll pin that article to a board on the library Pinterest. It takes me like 5 seconds. If I'm reading the article anyways, you might have to just pin it with clicks. Great for local food, some crafts, some designs. If I go out to lunch here in the area, I'll take a photo and put it in our local Glencoe food board. I think that's a fun way to kind of keep Pinterest and Pinterest followers involved. Snapchat is more behind the scenes. Snapchat is really for the young demographic, and if you have that, following that fan base in your library, it's great to use every day and get involved. More often than not, I feel like the library, you have to have a popular thing to do. They're not using them right. You're setting yourself up for more spam and whatnot. And if you don't have to have it, then I would advise not to use it. But it's great for behind the scenes, scenic images. If you're walking around the library, looks cool. The sun peeking through the window, whatnot. It's humorous, creative. You can show people, like bloopers almost. There are filters. And this is where if you can get a filter or like a geo filter for your library, with a little bit of work in it, and that could be a cool platform to use with people. When kids primarily are snapping at your library, they can use your library like those filters in front. For LinkedIn, I was telling you about articles, resources. I think it's great for your employees. Think of your staff, they're probably going to have it, they're working at your library. So if you just kind of use it as a way to kind of push out articles and so forth, then other people are going to follow your library page, or librarians at least. And that way you're kind of building up that page. You're not really doing that much, just kind of keeping it relevant. Resources.
Hey, Athens.
Yeah.
Hey, Athens, this is Joe. You know what? About a minute ago, your audio started to cut out a bit. Do you have a phone line that I could have you call in to just finish, to do the rest of the webinar from? We can just take a little 2-minute pause.
Yeah, I do. Sure.
Okay. All right, everybody, we're just going to pause things. Looks like it might be a bandwidth issue. So just sit tight for about 2 minutes, and then we'll bring Athens back on over the phone. Sorry for the inconvenience, but it'll just be a minute.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign.
Joe, you there?
I am. We'll just have to, Athens, disconnect. If you're able to disconnect your microphone, that'll prevent any echo that I think we'd be getting. Or feel free to leave the webinar altogether, and we'll just have you log back in. But instead of choosing the computer audio, choose the phone audio and do that dial-in number. I'm going to send you the access code right now.
All right. A little fun there with the technical difficulty there. Thank you for setting that up again, Joe, and thank you for sticking with us there. Okay, so we just got into the resources, and again, now's the time. If you please, share resources. It's all about, if you've got something that I'm not going to list here, then please type in the chat or whatnot, and that way other people can see. So for resources, and one of the big ones for me is always images. Sometimes, again, if you're doing this by yourself, if you're a team of one, you can't always run around the library and snap photos and so forth. So this is where sometimes I like to go, just rely on the internet. You don't want to just Google search, hey, picture of kids in the library or something like that, because that's not going to be the easiest thing to find, or copyright issues. So for images, I like Pexels. Death to stock photo is an email. They'll email you weekly, like a little zip file of different photos. A lot of them are scenic photos, but still you might be able to get something from there. I like Pixabay, freepic.com. Unsplash is another one where it's kind of, they'll email you photos. If you use Constant Contact, they also now have a kind of like their own little database of photos that are for free, or you can purchase. If you use Canva, which I highlight, which is fantastic for creating graphics and signs and all that jazz, it's a kind of a how-to or a one-stop shop, so to speak. Canva even has some graphics that you can use, or you can purchase as well. It's very economical with Canva. So those are my kind of go-tos for pictures and so forth. If you need some analytics, Hootsuite is primarily the main one that I use. I use the free version. There's a lot of resources you can pay, and certainly some that are just as fine for what you need to do, and it's free. For Hootsuite, I do my scheduling, I do my analytics. They're limited, but I get some through there. Certainly you could do a more expensive plan with Hootsuite, but I'm fine with just the free version. Iconosquare is your analytics for Instagram. Tailwind is great for my Pinterest. So it'll send me an update, an email once a week saying, hey, Athens, you got 8 pins or something this week. Sife is another kind of all-in-one dashboard, so to speak. It's not free, though, but it does kind of give you nice little metrics if you need to, like, print out fancy reports and so forth. Simply Measured, I've used for Facebook. They have kind of like a free trial, so to speak. Or some of these offer free for like one platform, so you can pick one. Quill Engage I use for like website stuff, and that's also something tied with your Facebook. All Google Analytics, if you need that, get yourself familiar with that if you need to kind of see how many people are clicking on your social media icons through your library's website. If the Google Analytics for your website traffic is counted for by another department or whatnot, get some of that feedback. Wiselytics, if I say that correctly, that's another one I've been using a little bit recently. They have a free, single user, which is great for me because I'm one person. They offer kind of a catch-all too of all your social media platforms. For scheduling, I highlighted and talked about Hootsuite. It's fantastic. I can post it for later. I use it for my Twitter, my Facebook. I use it for Instagram, but it doesn't actually go live. You have to send it to your phone, and then from your phone you have to open up the Instagram, and then it kind of copies and pastes everything in there. And that's a limitation with Hootsuite and Instagram, regardless if you're free or not, your plan. So certainly, you might as well just try to maximize it free as best you can. Buffer, Sprout Social, some other kind of all-in-ones. Later.com is a great one to delay Instagram. Again, if you're going to use Hootsuite for some of your other ones, or if you want to save on the money, then Later.com might not be something you use, but it is good for Instagram and kind of scheduling out. Some of these other ones here are kind of all the same, where it just schedules out postings. Constant Contact, I know a lot of libraries use that, including here for their e-newsletter or some kind of marketing email. You can also incorporate social media postings through that as well. So every time I put the newsletter, the e-newsletter, it'll also post some stuff on social media too.
Some other things to think about with the resources, I get a weekly email called Think with Google. I definitely would sign up with that because sometimes they'll show you just some kind of cool tech trending thing that you could use for some of your postings. The other day they were showing something about how 80% of people who use YouTube are typing in something with how to or something like that, because people go to YouTube to learn how to do something, how to fix a leaky sink or something. So that was just kind of a cool thing that I kind of incorporated with some of our postings. Facebook groups. You're not alone. As I mentioned, on Facebook there's a team of one. There's library marketing and outreach. Certainly look on there. There's makerspace Facebook groups. So certainly look on Facebook for something library related in your field. For link shorteners, I use Bitly and Owly. That's what's nice about Hootsuite. Again, even with the free one, you could put in a link and it'll shorten it for you. You can even do some analytics that way too. I use some browser extensions, as I mentioned, Pinterest, Hootsuite. RightTag is a great browser extension. Sometimes it kind of gets in the way if you're not actually doing anything with social media, but it'll kind of give you a little bit of a summary of what hashtag you're using. So right as you start typing that # and then words after it, it'll pop up on your browser almost and say, this is not a popular hashtag, or use this instead, and that's kind of cool. I've used it a few times here and there. Again, it might be something you have to toggle on and off, depending if you're working on Google Chrome for something else. Some other resources, these are just kind of things you might have already heard about. MailChimp, Constant Contact. If you're learning a little bit about some marketing and social media, then or you want to learn more, Lynda. There's Hootsuite that's offering a lot of online tutorials. Some are free. They all offer kind of a catch-all program too. Marketing Profs is another one that you can pay for if you're really interested. Udemy. There's Basecamp, Slack. These are more collaborative things that I'll use for. So when I'm pulling people in, I'll say, hey, let's create a channel on Slack for social media for the library, which is great for getting other people involved so you're not alone. And anything related to books online, for any social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, follow the book reviewers, follow the publishers, get involved with other libraries, because that's where you can really kind of get some ideas that way, and maybe something you can use. It's not stealing, you're just kind of, why reinvent the wheel? I'm sure tons of libraries are doing Book Face Friday or something with, Monday motivation, so you might as well just kind of see what's out there. And in turn, they might see something that you're doing too. So you're not alone, even if you think you are. There's other people who are alone, and there's so you can form your own team. And that's kind of like the summary of everything. Hopefully you kind of gathered through. And again, apologies for the sound issue there, but hopefully you saw a little bit of kind of what I'm doing and kind of some strategies that way, how you can use some of the big three, the Twitter, the Facebook, and Instagram. If you're diving into some of the other platforms, certainly. Some tips maybe you got from there, or at least some of the resources. I always feel like the resources are great. I'm always asking people, what are you using for analytics, or what are you using for your scheduling? Is it free? Is it paid? This is all stuff that you can kind of look into, and if you have a budget, I try to be as fiscally responsible, or at least very frugal in my own way. So sometimes I don't want to pay for something that's just going to save me 3 clicks, but if it saves me, from even logging in or something like that, then it might be worth it. So take a look at the resources. I did make them. All the slides, the whole presentation, also the resource list is available for you to download and print. I certainly, recommend you going through and kind of looking at what you're using, but also look at some of the other ones too. It might be able to save you some steps, or it might be a browser extension you might need or something. My contact information is there. Again, Athens Moreno over here at Glencoe Library. You certainly can just look me up online. I have my own little website, catchy, it's athensmoreno.com. Library kind of guy. If or do anything with the Glencoe Library, I encourage you to see what we're doing here. We've got some great things. Again, a great team member here, Sarah Burkhart, who does a lot with their Instagram. And again, this just reiterates, follow other libraries. You're going to get so much inspiration looking at other libraries and book companies, because we're all kind of promoting the same thing, like reading and kind of community involvement and whatnot. So why, you're not alone, and we can kind of learn and copy from each other. And again, another thank you for Rails for setting this all up. Thank you for taking your time today. I know the weather's kind of been so-so. At least today we got a little sun after the flurries yesterday. Reach out to me if you need any other questions. We'll go through. We'll see if you have any questions, but it was great talking with you, and hopefully we can save some steps for you on your social media and your strategies for the library.
Okay, Athens, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm having my own problems with audio on my end, but thank you for everything today, and we do have a few questions that people have sent in. So let's walk through those. So the first question, you know, and this is maybe for a medium or larger library that does have, you know, a number of staff that could contribute to the social media platform for the library. Do you recommend having a single person in charge of the postings, or to kind of spread that out across staff?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. You know, it's a good thing to have more people involved. You know, it's like, especially when you're doing it kind of by yourself, you're like, oh, I want more people involved. What's tough is with that is that you know, if they're posting something that you know, or maybe you don't like their posting, or they're not creative, you know, everyone's gonna have different kind of things. So you have to just kind of trust them. And I would say if you have more people involved, it's easier to kind of say, hey, you handle, you know, this activity or this department, or you handle reading clubs. You have another person handle your digital resources, like your ebooks. So that way you can kind of, you know, manage a little bit, but also kind of have your hand mix of everything. So that way there's not, you want to limit that cross-promoting. And also, if you have more people involved, which is great, maybe isolate days for those people too. You don't want to, you know, Sam Smith is posting about the library's Hoopla or Overdrive, you know, hey, check out ebooks, and then 2 minutes later, you got Sally Smith who's posting about some children's program, and now, you know, both posts are going to kind of get lost, or the ebook post gets lost. That's where, you know, if you have a team, you get all this organized, and that's something you can do with an audit too. In the beginning, I mentioned that is also get down like any type of posting scheduling you have, or start to set that up for your people that are involved. So that way, each department kind of knows their time slot or something like that. Or if it's something immediate, then have some rules to where, like, hey, you know, don't post something, you know, unless it's like a half hour later or whatnot, or so that way you don't kind of step on each other's toes that way.
Got it. What about the library having multiple social media pages? So, and I've dealt with this, you know, where you have a library general Facebook page. Would you advocate for creating kind of other pages, you know, a page for the teens, a page for children's services, or to have one kind of single page for the library on Facebook, etc.?
You know, it's great. You know, it's good to have more people involved. It really is. But then you also, you know, you start stepping on each other's toes. And I think with, you know, whether you're a big library, small library, the silos seem to build sometimes no matter where you are. And if you get separate accounts, then it's almost like you're going back and forth maybe with competition. So let's say your teams are putting cool graphics. They're embedding videos in their Facebook page or their other whatnot. They're using emojis all the time. And yes, they're appealing to a certain demographic, but then you know, users might go to that page because they think it's cooler. You know, someone who's 20 or someone who's 25 might look to that page for information, but then they're going to be limited on what they gather because the adult services page or whatnot is boring and just has pictures of signs and whatnot. That's where, if you can form your own little committee and just say, hey, X library, this is our page. So-and-so is in charge of this, that, and that. You pull someone in for youth or for teens and have them just kind of post on that same account. So that way you're adding so much more life to your single account. And then that way when you do your reports and so forth, you know, the board or whoever, the director, can say, hey, you know, we reached 1,000 people today, not, you know, oh, the teen page reached 42, adult reached 93, and kids reached 400. It's, you know, it's good to kind of make it all as one big picture there, because you're working together for the same goal, which is just get awareness out there. So it's better to keep it together.
All right. I think we can get through a couple more questions here. For a library that is smaller, that maybe, it is one person that's having to run the social media, and the time that they have to do that is very limited. Do you think it's better to kind of choose one platform for the library and make that really good and spend the time on social media for that one platform? Or do you think it's better to have several, but just a bare minimum for each, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, if you have to kind of pick between those two strategies?
I'm, kind of in the same boat here. I mean, think of it as that my title here is network manager, so I have the whole kind of IT thing going on here as well. So, I feel you. Thanks for putting that question in there. Where you have other duties, and that's where, whether big or small, I think the big three are the ones that you should have: your Twitter, your Facebook, and your Instagram. Now, you can certainly prioritize which ones you want to post more on, and I think of the three, maybe Instagram would be third, and then Twitter two. Facebook is almost like a website. It's almost like a branch website of your website. So, while it's still a social media platform, I think a lot of people expect businesses and libraries to have a Facebook page, and on that Facebook page have hours of operation, have, maybe someone you can message and so forth. That's why I was mentioning response time for a Facebook page. It's something you want to make sure you look at the questions that are coming in there. So whether big or small, you should have at least the big three, and I would just prioritize it: Facebook, Twitter, and your Instagram. Your Instagram can kind of be like your luxury, something you can have fun with, but people look to Facebook and Twitter for informative stuff now, especially Facebook. So you got to have that as a way to at least get, like, your closings and so forth promoted.
Mm-hmm. Kimberly asks if, in the case of, say, Twitter, if the library should follow everyone who follows the library, or are you just, from the library's Twitter account only kind of selectively following certain organizations or people? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's something that every time it's a good question. Thank you, Kimberly. It's something that every time I use my, phone or what have you, when I'm looking at the library's account, it's so easy just to kind of tap with your thumb and say, follow this person that's follow you. The thing with that is that, you're opening yourself to more, let's say, spam, and just kind of, setting yourself up to where someone's going to post some silly comments or something like that. So that's where I would not always follow everyone that's going to follow you. I stick to kind of the businesses, local businesses, other libraries, obviously for inspiration. And then maybe like your people you start kind of building a trust with, that your local, especially if you could tell that like they're a local resident or something, because then you're going to build that engagement. But if it's just like, Jack Smith from Hawaii or something like that that's following you, and you can kind of see that they're not really posting anything that's relevant really to your library. So that's something that you avoid by just kind of sticking to like your businesses and your local residents. You want to follow your local residents because you want to build that connection, or at least interact with them. Interact first with them before you follow, and then when you kind of see that they're legit, then you can follow. But I don't necessarily follow every person that follows the library page. I'm trying to build more followers, not necessarily have a high number of who I'm following.
Got it. Okay, well, if there are any other questions that folks had that we're hoping Athens could comment on, that's why he does have his contact info, email and so forth. So I think he'd be happy to engage with you on any other questions you might have. As we wrap up, I do want to just, very early on, Athens mentioned FOIA and, that sort of element of social media that, as a library, we do need to think about. And I imagine that some of you may have seen this, but we did a CE event around library use of social media. This was done by an attorney. It is up on our continuing education archives page. under the title of Library Use of Social Media. So if you are interested in learning about that aspect specifically, I'd encourage you to go onto the CE Archives page and check that out. It is there and has some good information for you. But with that, I think we are going to wrap up for today. I again apologize for the technical difficulties. It is just a reality of doing webinars and things in a virtual environment, but luckily it wasn't towards the end and we were able to get Athens back on. So thank you all for your participation. Athens, thank you for a lot of good information, and hope all of you have a good rest of your week.
Enjoy the rest of the week. Thanks again.
All right, thanks, Athens. Goodbye, everyone.